This is a Flying Cow production.
Well, hello and welcome back to Movie Battles. I am Clay Johnson, the Flying Cow himself, your host, and Movie Battles is where we take the very best in Disney, Pixar, movie trivia, and we put them head to head. Except today, we're not actually going to do a match. We're actually going to be talking about matches. We're doing something a little different. But I, as always, am not here alone. I have here with me today a man so good, he's already won. Victorious Vernon Greene. How we doing, sir?
Clay, I am doing great. I appreciate you having me here to talk about these matches. I'm very excited about this tournament bracket that we're going to be going over. But it seems the brackets always come up to one person though, and that's going to be the champion. And we talk about Nicki, and I really fear for everyone in the bracket, but we'll go into that a little bit more here in just a little bit.
Oh, yeah. We've definitely got a lot to talk about. We're going to be breaking down these brackets. We're going to be, Nicki.
That was a very wonderful, kind, and incredibly accurate thing Vernon just said.
Well,
Sure. But what are you doing here? I don't remember sending you the link. How did you?
Okay, to answer that in two parts. First of all, maybe don't make your password so predictable. Mo with like 8 O's. I mean, that's a little bit too on brand for you.
Blur that out.
No.
Second of all, I think it's only fair that I'm a part of this conversation, this analysis, because I'm directly affected by this entire tournament, by whoever assumes that they're going to take the belt off of me. So I think it's only fair that I get to have as much information as readily available for myself to take in.
I mean, you've got a good point. I mean, whatever happens, whoever wins this tournament is going to be facing you. And honestly, I think we would welcome your feedback. Wouldn't you, Vernon?
Absolutely. I mean, there's always a queen at the top with a crown, and royalty is here, and she's got that crown on her shoulder with that belt, and it is looking absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we can take a little bit of time. I mean, did you have any questions for Nicki, Vernon?
I really did want to ask her a question, and I'm glad that she popped in here. So thank you for making your predictable passwords to get into these streams. You're 5-0, and that is pretty impressive in any movie trivia environment. Are you afraid of your first loss, or do you think just everybody that's on this bracket that we're going to be talking about is just another cannon fodder for you?
I mean, certainly just going into any match possible, the questions can always go not my way. Luck is obviously a huge factor. I think it's fair to say that myself and many others in general, we have stuff that we're strong in versus stuff that we're not as strong in. And even the categories that we have the most faith in, we can always stumble across something that we just don't pull it in that moment. Nerves play a huge part in it. That being said, I don't plan on losing it at all.
All right. Well, I mean, I actually also have a question for you, Nicki. I mean, Vernon pointed out your record. You are currently 5-0, and the past couple of defenses that you've had, you have had a stronger record than the person that you are facing. But here's the thing. There are currently, I think, 6 or 7 players in this tournament that are also 1-0 right now. And in order to win this tournament, they will have to have 4 victories. Which means that if any one of them wins this tournament, going up against you, they would also be 5-0. What do you think about facing someone who may not have a belt on their shoulder, but has just as many wins?
That is absolutely in no way the slightest bit intimidating, and I would not go running for the hills or hiding under my desk, or
Not again.
hiding in a hobbit house or anything. Not at all. But I'll also believe it when I see it.
All right. Well, we will. We'll just have to see that. But I think that we should go ahead and get right into talking about this tournament, and I want to start that off by talking first about these rankings. So, real quick, I'm gonna throw these rankings up here for you just to kind of go through this real quick. Obviously, our current champion, Nicki the Nova Baldwin, with a record of 5-0. Right under her, we have number one, the chart master, Hannah Kiefer, who has faced Nicki for the belt twice, currently at 2-2. Then
those two, the interesting thing about the two, they both fell to Nicki.
It's true. It's true. Those are Hannah's only 2 losses. Then number 2 is the fairest, Amanda Van Heil, also at 2-2. Number 3 is Watkins, Watkins, with a record of 1-2. Number 4, we've got the Mad Madam herself, Kelly Meehan, who just debuted recently with a record of 1-0. Then at number 5, we've got Little Boat, Caleb Boatman, with a record of 1-0 as well. Then at number 6, we have the Spaniard, David Garcia. Number 7, Mad Dog, Brian Nussbaum. Number 8, the Philosopher, Kevin Poss. Number 9, the Party Monster, Pardus Jesudasen. Number 10, the Gentleman, Patrick Hill. Number 11, Mr. VHS, Nazario Montenegro. Number 12, the King, Caleb Coho. Number 13, the Cooler, Chris Diaz. Number 14, the Litigator, Lauren Collins. Number 15, the Candyman, Andy Sweet. And rounding out the top 16, Stephen, the Goof, Levin. So those are the competitors that we currently have going into the tournament. That is currently the entire Movie Battles roster. I decided not to add any more so that we would have to have play-ins because this is a lot of work.
One thing, Clay, that points out to me about that ranking list, you go down and you look at the accuracy of all of the players, and you have the champ sitting here with an 83% accuracy rate after 5 matches. There are people that have had 4 matches, 2 matches, 1 match, and she is above the average of roughly about 62% of the league being at 62% accuracy, and she's still holding on at 83% strong. That's got to be scary for some of these competitors.
That's true. And I mean, there are really only 2 competitors with a higher accuracy rate, but both of them have only had 1 match. So it's a hard comparison.
I was going to say, it's on the one hand, it's a small sample size. On the other hand, it's also evidence of what they are capable of in a single match. And that's all you need. If you want to win a championship, is just in that match. If you get there, just have that one nearly perfect or just the match of your life. And that's all it takes sometimes. Along the way, obviously, it's if you can boost your stats, all the better to show what you're made of. But again, it can fall either wayside on any given day.
Mm-hmm. True. And I do want to make the note, these rankings actually come courtesy of Megan McCurley, who did an amazing job putting these together. I had no clue, and she helped out a lot.
Max is a stats queen. Oh my God.
You can put anybody in front of a camera with a voice, and we can sit here and read off a sheet of paper, but it does take the information that is on that sheet of paper to make us look good. So thank you, Megan, for that information.
Or at least as good as we can look.
Yeah. You're right.
Yes, right. We do trivia. We don't do math.
All right. So what do you say we go ahead and get into our first match? We are going to start with And I do want to make the point that we are going to be talking about these in order of rankings. That is not necessarily the order in which they will come out. They will come out when they're able to come out, schedules depending. But we are going to go ahead and start this off with a discussion of this match. The Chartmaster, Hannah Kiefer, versus Steven, the Goof, Levin. And as we talked about in the rankings, obviously Hannah is currently number 1. Steven is currently number 16. So that's the way rankings work. That's the way that it came out. I will say, though, this looks, especially on paper, knowing what we know of these two competitors, a very lopsided match. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, no, you can go ahead.
No, the champ goes first. I know better than that.
Oh, that's a wonderful answer as well. Honestly, you should compete in trivia because you keep answering things correctly. Clay, give him some respect. Anyway, what I was gonna say, you're definitely right in having the 1 versus the 16 seed. It's incredibly difficult and it seems like it's going to be a very straightforward match, which just kind of like how I said earlier, though, and kind of just how we all talk about matches can very easily go like the wind can blow in one direction or the other in someone's favor, even when you least expect it. But what I will say about Hannah, though, as someone who's faced her twice, is in addition to her just being an incredible competitor who, even though I have defeated her twice, I would say, like, not only should everyone be terrified of going against her, she's also someone who seems to very much hone in on whatever her weaknesses are. At this point, with her experience, she's very aware of what those weaknesses are and has that to her advantage of what she knows she needs to devote her studying and attention to. So going to this match, I have a feeling that she's not only is going to be as amazing as she normally is, she's going to be more prepared than ever.
Yeah, if you are her friend on Facebook, you know what movies she's watching. And a lot of them have been Disney movies. She's taking this seriously.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got a 79% accuracy rate versus a 33% accuracy rate player, even if Steven doubled his accuracy in his second match, he's still not going to compete at the same level. So I hope for good things, obviously, for any player, but I think he's absolutely got a big brick wall that he's got to climb over.
Absolutely. So let's talk picks here. Obviously, we have a player in Hannah who is ranked number 1. She's played for the title twice. Was a finalist in the last tournament. And then you've got Steven, who has told me that he's actually studying right now. He's working on his Disney knowledge, and that's great. But he did get knocked out in his last match. So I feel, I mean, yes, there's always luck that plays into it. There are always upsets. I don't think this is going to be a match where that's going to happen. I pick Hannah.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. Anybody can have the day of their life, and hopefully we just saw a bad showing in his first match with Steven. But the veracity that Hannah has in her matches, and Nicki, you know for sure, like you said, she is a very formidable opponent. I've got to give this one to Hannah.
As you guys probably saw me, I was trying to squish a fly, which is going to be what happens with my next opponent. So foreshadowing. Wow. But I do have to say, I definitely think that Steven could very well elevate his performance. The studying sounds very promising, but just kind of based on what we've all said, I'm in the same ballpark as you guys, and I have to go Hannah for this matchup.
All right. Well, that brings us into the next match.
So looking at our next matchup, you have the number 2 seed, the Ferris Amanda Van Heel, versus the number 15 seed of Candyman Andy Sweet. And this match, I'm actually very much looking forward to because I got to call Andy's first match, and it was a very impressive performance. I believe the match was only by a difference of two or 3 points. I could be wrong, but was it a knockout?
Let me take a look.
I believe
here.
it was a TKO.
Was
it was a TKO because he had missed the question about the prince's name. I forgot his 3-point. His 3-pointer, I believe, was also a release date question, and then
I think Andy wasn't able to answer back in round 3.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I recall.
That's the only reason.
Andy's absolutely a solid player. He did get knocked out in his first match with a TKO, but I think he's got a lot more knowledge than what we saw in that first match.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just that third round that gave him issues. That second round, he that was movie release dates for him.
Movie release dates.
It was movie release dates.
And you could tell that was not the category that he wanted.
Right.
At all.
I mean, who does?
I mean, it can be kind of difficult. So
easy, champ.
Yeah.
We know you've got the strap. It's okay.
But I mean, I will say I think you're right. I mean, Andy, I think definitely has more to show us than what he showed in that match. And Amanda is a player that I think is a lot better than even she thinks she is. Mm-hmm. She definitely has some strengths. She has some weaknesses, but she hasn't completely been able to put everything together. She is in that number 2 seed, but I mean, a lot of that is, for the amount of time that she's been playing. Mm-hmm. And so I think that this is going to be a very interesting match because we have 2 players that I don't think either have achieved their potential.
So I definitely think that the seeding for this is very deceptive because despite the massive difference in where they're seated and ranked, I do agree with Clay in terms of their potential and the knowledge that they've shown and the knowledge I think they're capable of displaying to us. And I'll say to Amanda's credit, where even though I do have the win over her in the championship match,
I knew it was coming.
I will concede she answered questions that I got wrong. She has pockets of knowledge that have done her very well in this league. She went into the super deep sudden death with Jack with some questions that I don't think were necessarily the biggest gimmies in the world. And similar to Hannah, she has the experience. She's very aware of where her weaknesses are going to lie. I completely agree also with everything y'all have said about Andy as well. So I think that despite, again, their seeding, I do think this is going to be a deceptively closer match than many would assume.
All right. So talking about picks, Vernon, let's start with you.
Calling Andy's match myself and seeing how much he invested in himself for the match, I respect that. And I also respect the fact that Amanda has had her fingertips on the belt. Unfortunately, the champ pulled it away from her. I am going to have to go with an upset here and go with Andy because the fresh blood, the way he was upset after the match with the post interview and once we went off the air, I've got to give it to him. I think he's going to come back strong.
All right, Nicki.
I do appreciate because he did get a very excellent Wally question correct in his match and definitely showed a lot of promise. And it seemed more than anything else, it was the category of movie release dates that he struggled with. He wasn't able to go perfect in the round, and he got saddled with a 3-pointer in the same category. So I think it's very likely that if he gets almost anything else where he might have a much better time with that and might bring up some more points than we would expect. But at this point, just seeing the pockets of knowledge that Amanda has and the experience, it's honestly at the moment a little bit too hard to bet on that, but I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means.
So your pick is Amanda? Sorry, just making sure. Okay.
Nope, you're good.
All right. Like we said, I think neither player has achieved their potential. I do think Amanda is a little further on. And I mean, here's the thing. I think that Amanda has the potential to get all the way, not only back to a title match, but to win a title match. But I think a lot of it has to do with her head. That being said, she is currently on a pattern. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but she gets a win, she gets a loss. She gets a win, she gets a loss. She's just coming off of a loss. If the pattern holds, she's going to win this match. And I think at least for this match, the pattern's going to hold. I'm calling Amanda.
Very nice.
That's a great observation.
All right. So going into our next match, we have Watkins, the Watkins going up against the litigator, Lauren Collins, who is just to reiterate, a real life lawyer. The man has his own law practice. So yeah, I mean, you know, you look at this is another one of those where the amount of experience really went into the rankings, because you have Watkins, who is at number 3 with 1 win and 1 loss, or 2 losses. And then you've got Lauren, who's only had 1 match. Unfortunately, he got TKO'd, but it was a very similar situation where he got a bad slice on the wheel and unfortunately didn't know it was just spin away from it and took it, and just got the rough end of the stick.
That is one of the things that I hype on with shows that I always talk on, is that you've got to know the game that you're playing. And the fact that we didn't know we could spin away from it speaks volumes to a newer player. And you got to think that experience goes to Watkins as a benefit here, because even though this is the second match for Lauren, Watkins still has more experience, and we've talked about that since the beginning of this ranking. Experience makes a difference in a bracket type game.
Yeah, and this not directly related to trivia, but Watkins is also just always a joy to watch. Her all of her matches have been super entertaining. She brings such a great energy and a vibe to it, where she clearly looks like she's having a blast with it. Such an underrated match to me is hers against Patrick, the gentleman. It was just one of the most fun I've ever watched in this league so far. So I think in terms of nerves and experience, that's definitely also going to aid her. Whereas with the litigator, he might be chomping more at the bit, where there's a little bit more to prove when you don't have that win yet. So, but at the same time, that could also be a motivator to not have any win. So in a way, like, it kind of benefits both of them. There's the situations they're in terms of the vibe that they exude, and just however they're feeling just coming off of their most recent match and the energy that they bring to it.
I mean, as far as picks go, it's really hard, because although, like I said, they are 3 and 14, but they're very evenly matched.
Also, really interesting fact, they obviously with the litigator, but also I believe in the match against Patrick, Watkins also had to deal with movie quotes. So they both also had to deal with what has turned out to be a thorn in the sides of several competitors now, is the dreaded category, rivaled only by package films, of course.
Package films, yeah. I mean, movie release dates has gotten a few recently as well.
I'd rather face the movie release dates than those package films. I
would too. Well,
your questions are brutal.
I mean, I write all the questions, so I'd be fine with all of them. But, but yeah, I mean, as far as when it comes to a pick, it's really hard. I'm gonna let you guys in on something. With the exception of a couple of matches, I usually have a sense of who is going to win a match. There definitely have been some matches that I'm like, I have no clue. And out of the matches that I have had a sense about, I have only been wrong twice. So, but going into this match, I don't have a clear idea of who is going to win. I really think it could go either way, but I think I am going to give the edge to experience in this case, and I'm going to give Watkins the win.
Champ, what do you think?
Oh, why did you have to go to me? This is honestly a lot. Again, this is another one that I think is deceptively tough based on the seeding. They're very far away in ranking from each other, but they just, even based just on the litigator's one performance, seems very capable of holding his own against Watkins. And I think there's a very good possibility that if not for the dreaded movie quotes, he very well could have gotten so many other things and run the board with it. But you know what? Who knows? Maybe she's also going to follow a similar pattern to Amanda, where she lost her debut, which, by the way, also just to point out, she narrowly lost to Hannah, who is the number one ranked competitor in her first match. She lost on what was a pretty difficult 5-pointer. So I think,
as they all are,
very fair. That is fair. Well, it was a Pixar one, so I knew it. But okay, to be, I shouldn't say anything. I've gotten Pixar wrong before, but it is tough. Again, I don't think this is gonna be a blowout, but I'm gonna give the slight edge to Watkins, and I know if nothing else, she's gonna bring on a very entertaining performance.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And the one thing I look at here is the litigator. We talk about facts. Facts always hold up in court. Well, the facts are a 0-1 record, but the thing that hurts me more than that, because we talk about experience being important, is that a 53% accuracy rate at only a 33% points per game that were possible. So you take that is only 15% of the points that he could have had in a match. And I don't think that's going to get it done. So I've got to give it to Watkins on this one.
All right. So then moving forward into match number 4.
Match number 4. Very excited about this one. Mad Madam Kelly Mahan versus the cooler Chris Diaz. And we're looking at a number 4 spot versus a number 13 spot. And I am going to go ahead and just give my opinion up front. Kelly is a force to be reckoned with. We're looking at, in the first match alone, 92% accuracy, 90% on the points possible. That is something to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, absolutely. She has the highest accuracy of any of our current 1-0 rookies. Just watching her match, her only miss was a package films question, which I think is fair to say no one is going to judge her on missing that. So she's definitely a very fierce competitor. The one thing I'll point out is I do think Chris gave a very solid performance in his match. He did pretty well in round 1. He did well in round 2. The main thing that he struggled with was round 3, and which is what had ultimately cost him the match. And as with many of them, it comes down to the third round is almost always the deciding factor. But I will say, given that she did get that Kelly got a TKO, we have zero information on how she does in round 3, where we don't know what the scenario would be if she goes in down, if she has to answer questions, if there's pressure on her because she was so dominant. So I think that is a little bit of information to keep in mind as well. But I do have to say she was utterly dominant, and having hit all of her questions, and from what we saw, she is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I mean, to your point, Chris, it's been a while, but if I'm remembering correctly, I think he was actually leading Pardus going into round 3.
He was by a point because
a narrow lead, but if Kelly is able to perform the way she did in her round 1 and round 2, if Chris is not able to get a round 3 going, she might not again need to go to round 3. So that's also something to think about. But like you said, Chris also has a decent round 1 and round 2. So you never know.
Round 3 is one of those things that I harp on a lot. You can have a lot of points going into round 3, but we've seen even in the first class league, somebody could have a monster league lead going into round 3 and absolutely fall apart and lose the match. It's sad. I've seen almost the 10-point spread in a round 3 and they lost. It happens. So I think that her inexperience of playing in round 3 is a factor, but the powerhouse that she is, I don't know that Chris can play against that.
Yeah, I honestly, I do agree with you, where certainly round 3 could be decided by maybe just one question. Like that's all it would take, either for someone to gain a lead or maintain it, and that's all is necessary to decide a match. But honestly, I'm in the same boat, because with Kelly, even with the limited information we have, it is extraordinarily promising. The only question she missed is in the single most dreaded category across the league. So she's now aware of what she would need to study on. So I think that makes her incredibly dangerous.
Yeah. All right. So why don't we start with you then in picks, Nicki, for this match?
Honestly, just to piggyback off of what I just said, I would definitely say Kelly. But I do think Chris has a lot of potential, and I don't see him flying down during this match.
Yeah. I I'm gonna pick Kelly in this match, but I think that Chris has potential. I think we might see him go on some sort of run next season. But I think that this game for this tournament is Kelly's.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, the record is 1-0 on one side and 0-1 on the other, 92.9% accuracy versus a 62% accuracy. And just we can't talk about experience here. We have to talk about the straight numbers. And I give it absolutely to Kelly in this match.
All right. Well, with that, we will go ahead and move into match number 5. The 5th match we are talking about here is Lil Boat, Caleb Boatman versus Mr. VHS, Nazario Montenegro. And this match, you talk about a toss-up. Like Caleb, other than Kelly, has the highest accuracy rate going into this tournament. He has an accuracy rate of
85.7?
Yes. Oh yeah. Sorry, my eyes aren't working. Yes, 85.7. And he was also very super impressive in his match with Steven. He KO'd Steven. Unfortunately, Steven just was not up to the challenge of Caleb that day. I will say, though, for some reason, every time I was remembering this match previously, I kept thinking that Caleb also only missed one, but I forgot. I think he missed at least one in round 2. And I know he went to multiple choice at least once there too.
Yeah.
He got 15 points out of a KO. That's pretty impressive. And then you've got Nazario, who is, if it weren't for the fact that Patrick had played more games, would be the highest ranked of those with a losing record.
Sure.
Nazario is super tough. He was actually also leading in his match with Brian. And if it hadn't been that he just got a tough 2-pointer, Brian would have had to go to his 3-pointer or his 5-pointer first, and who knows what would have happened then.
Yes. So this is definitely one that I think, I keep saying everything's very deceptive. But I do think that you make a lot of good points and a lot of credit to Nazario, where even with the 0-1 record, I think is not indicative at all of his skill. From what we've seen, Caleb was an absolute beast in his match against Steven. And I absolutely see him putting up just as many points as he did with that match. But I will say for Nazario, because correct me if I'm wrong, he got, I think, 7 in his round 1, or he did very well in his round 1.
I think he may have gotten 6.
Yeah,
but okay. I mean, both of them had kind of a rough round 1. I think it was like 6-5 or something like that.
Right. But from what I just remember Nazario, I was impressed, and having to pull Eleanor Oddly was definitely a tall order. So I think part of that was a lot of it just based on the luck with the questions. But I think this is truly, so far, I think one of the most even matches we've seen looking at this bracket so far.
Yeah, and I agree. You know, the 5 and 11, usually you think that the 7 and 8 spot are going to be the closer of the two matches. I do think the 5 and 11 here is going to be the exciting match of what comes down to the maybe 5-pointer at the end, or maybe even a little sudden death action. But you know, the 73% accuracy rate for Nazario versus the 85%, that's not a big margin of difference. And when it comes to movie trivia, that's one question.
Yeah.
1 to 2 questions.
And I just want to say it's even harder when it's such a small sample size.
Absolutely.
You ask them both just one more question, and it could be a world of difference.
Yeah.
Right. They could easily flip on the board of where they're at. So it's going to be a definite close one. And I'm going to go ahead and start off the picks for this one. And I'm going to go with the upset of Nazario taking this one. Mr. VHS.
To be totally honest, I was kind of thinking along the same lines. I will not be remotely surprised by any possible outcome in this match. But with Nazario, I think he's going to have that fire. He knows that there's some deep actors that he might need to brush up on a little bit going into it, just so that he's prepared for it. So, but I honestly would not be surprised either way, because I think this is going to be a great matchup.
And I'm sorry, your pick there was Nazario?
Nazario, okay. Yes.
Here, I thought I was going to be surprising. Because, I mean, you look at the numbers and it looks like Caleb. Sure. And, I mean, I hope Caleb doesn't get super pissed that none of us pick him here. But I don't know. There's just something about, Nazario. I think that, number one, that loss to Brian really, I think, has lit a fire under him. I do not think he does not want to be 0-2. And also, I think he sees Caleb as a monkey on his back. He's never played him here, but he has sent me a couple of matches that he's played in other leagues. And there's one I watched last night that Nazario was in the lead, and at the last minute, Caleb got in the lead and beat him. Now, it's a much different format than what we do. They work with negative points. We don't. That might actually be a big difference when it comes to this match. But I really just feel like the fire is on Nazario's side. And while, like Nicki said, I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb goes on a run here, I feel in my gut that it's Nazario's time.
Yep.
I also just want to bring up really quickly. The other KOs are one of the most impressive things that you could do in any kind of trivia league. But given with the limited amount of information we have, that also means we have less to look at with someone who has a KO who didn't have to do anything in round 3. Sure. We've seen Nazario under pressure and what he knows he has to do, which not to say that Caleb wouldn't know what to do, but that's just also additional information.
Right.
And also to bring up, this is unfortunately a case where we have to just say one or the other. If it was like we had to give the percentage, it would be so much closer. Because it sounds like we fully think one person's going to win. That's not the case at all.
No, it's literally like 51-49 here. Like,
But
Right.
when that 49 is hungrier to prove, to get out of that 0-1 category, the 49 really looks like a 52 by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah. All right. Well, let us go ahead and go into match number 6.
So match number 6 brings us up to the Spaniard, David Garcia, who is ranked number 6, and the King, Caleb Coho, who is currently ranked at, I'm afraid I don't have his rank. There it is, number 12. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No,
and a 6-12 matchup here. Pretty exciting because they are very close on the numbers as far as their percentages. What are we looking forward to this match?
I'll start off where I've seen David a little bit in other fan leagues, and he obviously has the experience with the gameplay a lot, and he looked like a buzzsaw in his match. And honestly, I would be pretty intimidated to go up against him. But you know what, Caleb, he ran into a buzzsaw with Kelly. So that was not a favorable matchup, even though going into it, they were blank slates entirely. So
he also had the misfortune of getting a movie release dates category that he was very confident about, but was harder than he expected.
Yeah, so that, especially because some of those questions were because having the release order of Pixar, where that was especially tough because as soon as he missed it, that gave Kelly the opportunity to get the 2-point steal. So he showed so much promise in that match, though. So I think he especially, because I could see how passionate he was at the end of it. I know he's going to be very hungry when he comes back.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that this is actually going to be a pretty even match. Once again, the numbers just are what they are based on what we have. Most of these competitors have only played one match in this league. I do think that this is going to be rather close. I mean, I think that it's definitely going to come down to, because you look at their round ones, both of them got 7 points in their round one. I think they both missed the package films question. And
who doesn't?
Exactly.
A few people don't miss them,
it's an absolute terror.
I mean, I will say, for as terrified of package films as Amanda is, she's gotten a few in her round one. She's gotten 2 perfect rounds. But I think that this match is really going to come down to round 2. I think that it really depends on what both of these 2 competitors spin, and also having an idea of what this league has to offer when it comes to those wheel slices. Because obviously Caleb had a completely different thing in his head when he got, because he missed that difficult Pixar question, but he also missed an earlier question about 1977 that wasn't as difficult. It's like, what was the apprehension there? What was the actual flaw going on? But I think it's really going to come down to round 2 for these guys.
And you talk about how important round 2 is, both strong players, and again, not a really big sample size on what they know, but it comes down to, okay, you don't know your opponent doesn't know you don't know, the wheel could give you strength, could give you a weakness, but it's about damage control when it comes to round 2, and you could get a category that doesn't suit you, and if you are the first one up and don't take the multiple choices when you need them to either give your opponent the least amount of points, or for you to miss, or for you to just pick up one, your opponent could also hit a category that they don't know, and at that point you've done given away so many points that you can't get enough back from their spin. So I think smart play is going to come into play with that round 2.
Yeah, and getting into picks, like I said, I think this one is going to be really close, but I do think it's going to come down to round 2. And from what I have seen, yes, I've only seen one match from each of them, but just the way that each of them composes themselves when it comes to a variety of wheel slices, I think that David has the slight edge here, so I'm giving it to him.
Yeah, when it comes down to this narrow, this is where we really start taking a look at what we've already seen. And I know it is unfortunate because they are so close, but I do have to give the slight edge out to David on this one, especially with the 80% accuracy that he's got with 68% of the points earned.
So believe it or not, I'm honestly going to go for the upset. I think that David was super impressive, and we're gonna everyone's gonna get sick of me and the rest of us saying this. It could go either way because they were both they both did really well in their matches.
It's movie trivia, anything could go either way.
But I definitely saw the passion that Caleb had for this. I saw that the frustration when he had missed those questions. He knows what he would need to hone in on just in case that were to trip him up again. And he spins any other category because that is a tricky category. It could have been an incredibly different match. And I think so I honestly will go Caleb for this match for the upset.
And I will say on Caleb's behalf, with the exception of his 5-pointer, which admittedly was very difficult, he was very impressive in his round 3.
Absolutely. No, 100%.
Right. Yeah. And all right. And of course, it gets down to these middle bracket points, and it's not easy to go one way or the other. You almost have to flip a coin and give an answer because it is so close.
And he, again, had an extraordinarily formidable challenger in Kelly, who went in with such a massive lead going into that final round. With how close I expect these matches to be in this tournament, I don't think that's going to be the case nearly as frequently.
No. All right. Well, let's go into match number 7 for round number 1, and that is Mad Dog Brian Nussbaum versus the gentleman Patrick Hill. And I mean, we've seen Patrick has had 2 matches. He is unfortunately 0-2, but he's been pretty impressive. A little more impressive in his first match than he was in his second. But obviously he played 2 very difficult competitors in Nicki and Watkins. And then of course, Brian is 1-0. He defeated Nazario, like I said, narrowly. And Brian is the number 7 seed. Patrick is the number 10. And here's the thing. Brian is eerily good at voice actors. Mm-hmm. That is Brian's secret weapon. That is how he defeated Nazario, because he got that. Nazario did very well in his wilderness questions. If he didn't go perfect, I think he went to multiple choice just once. Brian got Spinner's choice, went to voice actors, and ran the table. And it just so happened that his 2 and his 3 were both voice actors. And I don't know if you guys heard it at the end of the match, but he knew Nazario's Eleanor Audley question. Mm-hmm. No hesitation. Yeah. So the key here for Patrick is to avoid voice actors as much as possible. But here's the thing. Voice actors are not just in the voice actor category. There are voice actor questions in
everywhere.
Yeah, a lot of the categories. So this is going to be a hard one for Patrick to navigate.
So here's where I step up for Patrick. The one thing I think Patrick needs to focus on more than anything is getting some points. 38% points earned in a game, being that high up in the ranking, kind of scares me, because you're going up against a person that has, if I'm not wrong, 81% accurate or points earned. That's a big upside down number. So you got to get to round 3 in order to be able to play, and I think that's where we need to see a big game from the gentleman.
No, absolutely. The other thing I will say to Patrick's credit is, at least in my match, because he, for his second round category, he did have to go multiple choice for every single question. Correct me if I'm wrong, Clay, but I believe he had to. But that's also
I think
very
you both had very difficult.
It was
round
hard for me.
twos. Yeah.
That was very difficult. To be fair, I got a to catch for 2 points, but anyway. But no, like those were both very hard. But here's the thing. That's also in a way a strength of his, that he played conservatively, because in this situation, even though he gained less points, the only thing worse than that is to give them up to your opponent.
He played like a player that knew the game, and that was his first game. He is not a guy who plays in fan leagues. He's a friend of mine. He just did this because I asked him to. So, and because he likes Disney. So yeah, the way him being able to play that strategically, that's just him.
Right. So I give him a lot of credit for that. And I do think that the Watkins match was also another one that was difficult. They both had to deal with quotes.
His movie quotes category was tough. If I had that one to do over again, I would have spread those questions out a little, but no,
100%. So I'll say to a little bit, you could attribute to bad luck. But like you said, what Brian did do in his match, like, it cannot be overstated. He does have that massive strength. Now, otherwise, we do have to see what they would be like going against each other to see will Patrick play strategically the same way, and if he gets any kind of similar questions, will he be able to stop those possible steals, and how Brian will navigate if he has the category again, or if he does get other actor questions in other categories. It's hard because with Brian there is the unknown outside of that, but so honestly, this could go in a lot of different ways, but I think it'll be an entertaining match if nothing else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So going to picks, like I said, I think the key for Patrick would be avoiding voice actors as much as humanly possible. But that really just comes down to, what the wheel does. I mean, so far, we have only landed on opponent's choice once. We're the opposite of the Schmodown right now. I don't know how we did that, but we are. They get not to say that people haven't landed on things that they don't want, but we've landed on spinner's choice much more than opponent's choice. And other than that, it's mostly just categories. So I don't know how much this one actually is in Patrick's hands. And while voice actors is definitely Brian's number one strength, it's not his only strength. So I love Patrick. I love the fact that he is in this league. I love what he's doing, and I really want him to, get some traction here somewhere. But I don't think this is where it's going to be. I am giving the match to Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I agree at this point. He showed a lot of prowess, and I very much echo what you said about how much voice actors can permeate into their categories. And he in his round one, he answered questions about stuff that weren't voice actors. So I think just kind of based on that, I would go Brian. But honestly, I'm with you with Patrick. Even if he did lose, I would want to see him come back time after time. And if he happened to pull out his first one with this, that would also be amazing.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the brackets are meant to be busted, and as much as the points things scare me with Patrick, I'm going to go with the upset of Patrick, because an 0-2 competitor, and I think he is the only 0-2 competitor that I can see in this bracket, it's time to shine, baby. It's time to come on out of it and win it. So I'm going to go ahead and give him a first round win here.
All right. All right. Well, then let us go ahead and bring up our final round 1 match. And that is going to see the philosopher, Kevin Poss, going up against the party monster, Pardus, Jesu Dawson. And these guys are pretty, and I mean, this is the last match, so the ranking here is 8 and 9. Kevin has the slight ranking advantage here. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. This is the only match where we actually have 2 people that are 1-0. But because of the numbers and the way things worked out, this match, both of these competitors are currently undefeated. So one of these competitors is going to be 2-0, and one of them is going to add a notch in that loss column. So it really just depends. And I will say, both of these competitors, I think, are pretty evenly matched. I mean, you look at their accuracy. You've got Kevin with 76.9, and then Pardus 73.3. Not that far off. Pardus actually answered more questions in his got more points in his match. Of course, Kevin also got that TKO from Andy. Right. So it's kind of a toss-up here.
Yeah. On either one of the stats, it's 3% either way. One's got a 3% lead on the other, and then the other one's got 3% on the points. And that's one question. That is a 3-point question. And these guys, they come to play. And like you say, the old saying is, one of the O's must go. And it's going to be, I think this could be the sleeper match of the whole thing, even more than the one in the very end.
So I'm going to say this. I'm like a broken record at this point. I'm just repeating myself, but I do think this is honestly going to be a pretty great match between the two of them, because it's going to be very even. I do feel like based on their performances, they are evenly matched. Both of them did spin away from their first categories. So we don't necessarily know if what they got was their favorite category. And correct me if I'm wrong, because not Steven, I apologize, I'm Kevin. I'm trying to remember what he had landed on. I believe it was voice actors, actually.
Yeah.
Ironically.
Yes, and he went to multiple choice for every single one, but navigated it smart, very well.
But got a perfect multiple choice going through there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do think that in both of their cases, because I'll let you guys in on something. I was terrified of Pardus's questions and villains. So when Pardus got villains for his match against Chris, those terrified me. So in my match against Hannah for the bang round, I only bet one.
I remember that.
And it was specifically after watching the match with Pardus, because I was so scared of those questions. So if he spins something else, he might do considerably better. And he still got the win, but he could be terrifying with another category, which could definitely hold true for Kevin as well. And I think they both actually got roughly the same in round 1 as well.
Yeah. I can't remember, but yeah, I think they were both kind of, a little back and forth. I think it was around 5 or 6 points for both of them, I think.
Yeah. And I don't know all the competitors better be watching this, because the champ just literally told you a weakness right here from 2 different matches. She said she was uncomfortable.
Let me be clear about something. I was scared by those questions, but then I got the betting round question correct very easily.
I was gonna say, she got 3. She got that third round question easy. So
it gives just saying. I mean, let me be clear. I think that's a great strategy, is take whatever you can get from the information provided, but just saying.
Champ fears no category.
All right. So, I mean, if we're talking about picks, I don't know. Like I had one thing in my head, and as we've been talking, I've been going back and forth, and I think both of these competitors, as far as their knowledge goes, I think they're very even. I think either one of them could walk away for this match. But I will say, the ability aside, have you ever met Pardus? Pardus is one of the nicest people. He's just so calm and quiet and supportive. He comes to every single one of the matches that I post the link for. He's there just about if he can. And I feel like voting against him would be like punching Winnie the Pooh in the face. And I love Winnie the Pooh. I'm not going to do that. So I'm voting for Pardus.
So, firstly, I echo your entire statement you just made. I do think, again, this will be an incredible match. I think they both played very similarly from what we did see from them. But you know what? I give Pardus a lot of credit because he navigated a tough set of questions. He was able to get the steal that he had. He got a very good steal off of Chris in their match. And he missed his 2-pointer. It was a very tough 2-pointer that I would not have wanted about Emperor's New Crew. And was able to pull a tricky 3-pointer. So again, I could be anyone's game, but I will give the edge to Pardus.
I feel you. I 100% support both of you in your decision, but give it maybe a little bit of impartial or non-partial calling or partial calling here, I guess I should say. I watched Kevin play. I got to call that match, and it comes down to when you're this close, how well do you play the game? And Kevin won his match on 1-pointers in the second round. That's smart play, that's strong play. If he'd had 2-pointers, there wouldn't have been a third round. So I give it to Kevin for knowing how to navigate his way through. I said it that game. He's smart. That's something that he knows how to play the game, and that's something people have to look out for because he was patient, took his time, and got his win there. I give him the win in this one.
Sure. All right. So those are the first round matches. Those are, of course, the matches that we know are going to happen. Assuming nothing horrible happens. Those are the matches that we know are going to happen. But now I want to go ahead and kind of speculate on the rest of the tournament, what we think might go down in these potential matches. So let's start with the quarterfinals. The first match is that bracket up at the top. We all have Hannah winning her match, so she'll definitely be in that. And then myself and Nicki have Pardus in that match, and Vernon has Kevin. So Kevin, since you're the outlier there, why don't you go ahead and pick that match first?
Well, as much as I like Kevin, I really have to eat the crow on this one, and he'd be fun. He'd be a good match, but I don't think he's going to be a match for Hannah.
Agreed. All right. So I'll go second. I've got Hannah versus Pardus. And as much as I said that picking against Pardus would be like punching Winnie the Pooh in the face, apparently I'm a horrible person and I'm going to punch Winnie the Pooh just on this second round match though, Pardus. And I'm picking Hannah. She's just finalist in the first tournament, played for the title twice. It's hard to pick against her, especially in this match.
Oh, bother.
Yeah. Nice impression. I do have to go along with both of your sentiments. I know Pardus is very passionate about this, and he's putting in the studying, and I definitely feel great about his performance for the first round. Hannah, though, I think is just going to be such an uphill climb, though, because again, she is so acutely aware of what she has to brush up on. The experience is on her side with just the number of matches, and we all believe she'll come out of her last match, so she'll be on a new winning streak, similar to the first tournament. So I have to give the edge to Hannah, but I look forward to that match tremendously.
All right. Then on the other side of the bracket, both myself and Nicki picked Amanda in that match, and Vernon picked Andy. And going up against them, myself and Nicki have Brian going up against Nicki, or sorry, not Nicki. Nicki's not in this tournament.
I was gonna say that's really
Amanda.
He got to the belt quickly.
Yeah.
Damn.
But Vernon has Patrick against Andy. So once again, Vernon, you are the outlier here, so I'm gonna have you go first.
Yeah, so I mean, Andy played a good game whenever I called it, and I looked at the stats, and they're both, 38, 33 when it comes to points earned. But Patrick does have 2 matches versus the one of Andy. So I'd have to give Andy the edge of trying to get his way and crawl his way back up to maybe a 1-1 status. So that's where I go with that one.
Okay, so you have Andy in this match?
I have an Andy.
All right. Nicki, why don't you go next?
So this is especially for these rookies that have only had 1 match each. The second round, I think, is going to be very interesting because coming out of the first round, like whether they won or lost their first match, they're going to have that fire on their side. So I think I feel like it's going to be a little bit tough at this point. So I think that would give the edge I think that gives a good edge to Brian to be on that 2-0 streak coming out of that first round. Because at that point, he will have a lot more experience just with different categories within the league. So I think he would be a fearsome 2-0 rookie. But again, with Amanda, I think this is especially going to be a close one. With Amanda, she has the experience. She similarly knows what her weaknesses are. She's been under pressure. So I do give the slight edge to Amanda.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's tough because you've got Amanda definitely has the experience in the league. But Brian, if he gets voice actors or anything in that realm, he seems pretty much unstoppable. I mean, I don't know here. I think I do have to give the slight edge to Brian because unfortunately we're in that pattern. Win, loss with Amanda. She wins her last match. If she can't overcome that pattern, and she can't pull out, because Brian has a particular strength that we know if he gets or anything adjacent to it, he's going to be hard to beat. Amanda is good at a lot of things, but I don't know if she has a strength in that, to that depth. So I've got to give the slight edge to Brian. All right. So then the third match, we all have Watkins winning her match. And then I believe myself and Vernon both have, both have David winning his match, while Nicki has Caleb. So Nicki, you are the outlier this time, so we're gonna have you start first.
This one's tough because it crushes my soul to even think of not picking Watkins for this. But I do have to say that in this scenario, and again, this could be similar to Amanda, and one or the go back and forth, win loss. We don't know for sure yet if that would be the case with Watkins, but I will say with Caleb, I can imagine if he gets that win in the first round, that is going to just fire him up and motivate him even more than he already is at this point. So it hurts because I would love for Watkins to be in all the matches, but I would have to give the slight edge to Caleb, assuming he comes out of his first match.
All right. And Vernon.
I've been nothing but impressed with both of these competitors. And I have to look at the last match that Watkins came off of I believe she won her last match, correct? She won
No, her last match against Jack, she lost, but she had
lost.
some really tough
right
3rd round questions.
But to me, her record doesn't say who she is as a competitor, and
No,
she
really
is
doesn't.
fierce, and she does have the energy to bring on a good match. So I have to go with Watkins again with this match.
All right. I am so far we've all picked a different person, and I'm gonna keep that up. I'm actually picking David in this match.
Okay.
I'm with Nicki. I want to pick Watkins. I love anytime Watkins has a match. She's just one of the most fun people to have in the space, but I just feel like she hasn't completely brought it together yet. And I think David is a little bit more fully formed. So I think David has the edge in this match. So then in the final quarterfinal match, that would leave us with, we all picked Kelly, we all picked Nazario. So that would be Kelly versus Nazario. And there's no outliers, so I'm going first this time. Here's the thing. This match could be a championship match.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hate that this has to happen so early in the tournament. Not to say that we aren't going to have some great matches after this, but this match, just because of the way the rankings came out, this is going to be an explosion, this match. I think it's going to be very close. I think it could come down to 5-pointers. I think one of these competitors could be one of the second competitors, or maybe it might happen earlier, but might be among the first competitors to get a 5-point question. Or if that doesn't happen, we might go into sudden death.
Mm-hmm. But
I think that Kelly is going to pull it out by a nose.
This puts Kelly at 2-0 if we come into this round match. 1-1 for Nazario, and you would think obviously the stats are going to go up if Nazario takes the win in his first round. So, but honestly, I don't see Kelly missing a step, and I don't see her numbers faltering at all. So it's going to be a Mad Madam kind of day in this bracket, and I'm going to stick with my original pick again. I'm going to go with Kelly.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything Clay just said. I would be absolutely stoked to watch this match as the finals or a championship match, which, yes, I can be humble. I can concede a universe where I'm not champion, but so this,
you've retired by then, right?
Well, I don't know.
Go out on top with a retirement.
Maybe I'll drink some vampire blood. Maybe I'll drink some vampire blood in the meantime. But like I said before, I fully expect Nazario to come out guns blazing in his first round match. And echoing what Vernon said, I do believe like that'll give him not legitimacy, because he has legitimacy in this league for sure, but it would just kind of further showcase what he's capable of, that more so than his first match. But at this point, I think Kelly is just kind of the safer bet, just based on what we've seen and what she's capable of. So I have to go with Kelly for this matchup.
All right. So that brings us into the semifinals. And we have 2 matchups in the semifinals. First of all, in our first semifinal, we have Hannah. We all picked Hannah. But I picked David to go against him. Vernon picked Watkins, and Nicki picked Caleb. So we've all got something different this time. So just to spin the wheel, let's have Nicki, you go first here.
Okay, so I have Hannah and Caleb, which I think would just be, I think that's another championship level match possible right there. Because in this scenario, Caleb is coming off of 2 wins, and which at that point is a pretty good comeback from his first loss. Yeah. I think that would like fully legitimize him in the league at that point. Again, not that anyone isn't legitimized, but he would have just had such a good way to display his prowess at that point.
Yeah, it would be quite the momentum.
Exactly. So I think it would be an absolutely astounding match. This is honestly extremely hard because Hannah, again, is going to be the seasoned veteran who at this point is coming off a lot of wins. She's going to be gunning for her 5th one at this point. So if she took this whole tournament, she would have more wins than I would at this point. So that's in itself would be super impressive. So this is a true 51-49. I would in that case just kind of give the slightest edge to Hannah because in all of her matches, she's always been very careful and methodical. So, and I know that Caleb is going to hone in on the strategy as well. But with her, it's very hard to bet against Hannah with all she's accomplished. So I go Hannah.
All right. Well, I will go second because I don't think I've gone second yet. But yeah, I mean, obviously I've got a completely different match. I've got David versus Hannah. And I don't know. I think that their knowledge is going to be pretty even at this point. But you do have, like you said, Nicki, Hannah at this point will have 4 wins under her belt if she gets all the way to David. David will have 3. What I have seen from Hannah, she doesn't even think of it as studying. This is just how she watches movies. This is just the thing that she enjoys doing naturally. And it just so happens that because of that, she can answer questions really, really well. Whereas I think with almost every other competitor, it's kind of a process we've put ourselves in. And I think Hannah's going to pull it out. I think that David is going to make it quite the game for her, but I don't see Hannah not making it to the final. Just don't see it happening.
And I've got, correct me if I'm wrong, Hannah and Watkins, correct?
Yes, you do.
Okay. So, I mean, at this point, you're looking at, I believe, 11 matches between the 2 of them by the time we get to this match. You start looking at longevity and who can go the long distance. And both of these that I have are strong players, stats not too far off each other, but it's
also this would be a rematch of both of their first matches.
Exactly. And I got to give Hannah the endurance on this one because she's already up 10% in both categories as far as where she's at with the 4 matches versus the 3 that Watkins has had. So as much as I love some Watkins trying to get all the way to the end, I got to shadow what you said. I don't see a world that Hannah's not in the finals.
All right. Yeah, I mean, if she doesn't make it to the finals, we're all gonna be. We're all
somebody just made a lot of money somewhere.
How did this happen? Yeah, right. All right. So once again, we have a completely different. We have one side we all picked Kelly, the other side we all picked somebody different. So I have Kelly versus Brian. Vernon, you have Kelly versus Andy. And then Nicki, you have Kelly versus Amanda. So Vernon, Kelly versus Andy is very interesting to me. I want to hear about that matchup.
So it's this the Cinderella story. You've got the powerhouse of Kelly, just playing strong all the way to this match. She would at this point be 4-0, I believe.
Yeah.
Andy would be 3-1. Would this be 3 matches in, or this would be 4 matches in? 3 matches. 2 wins out of the bracket.
2 wins. So they would be. She would be 3-0. Yeah, because she'd be 5-0 at the end if she won.
Right. Okay. So 3-0, and then 2-1. And Andy, I mean, I'm rooting for you. I would hope that you'd be able to pull off the Cinderella story and get the big knockout at the end. But there's always a bigger monster in the tall grass, and I've got to give it to Kelly on this one. The Mad Madam is going to wreak havoc yet again and take another win here.
All right. And Nicki, what's your take on Kelly versus Amanda?
Oh my God, I have to pick. This is terrible.
That's the hardest one I think of all right there.
Yeah, because you have Amanda, who again at this point is not even just the seasoned vet, but she's also in a very similar scenario as Hannah, where she has been on runs. She's had a title match. She would now be on a really good streak, making it this far into the tournament. And she has experience being in a tournament. And again, it's very tough where, like you said, where there's been a couple of questions that she's in categories where she struggled with, where she's over on the whole, she's very good. She's a really great, solid player. But there's something to be said for a rookie who is on a roll. Sorry, but I can relate very well. So in that regard, there's something to be said for that with Kelly making it this far, and just based on what we've seen again, where especially if she gets those wins under her belt, I think that's going to give her a lot of momentum. So this is incredibly difficult, but kind of based on what we've seen, the kind of momentum she'd have and the people she would have had to beat, I'm going to give a little bit of the edge to Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I have Kelly versus Brian. And whereas Brian definitely has that ace in the hole with voice actors, I see Kelly as more well-rounded. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've never seen her do voice actors, but I know she did pretty well with a movie release dates category. That when I asked her if that was a strength for her, she was like, but she was easily picked up. The points that Caleb left on the table. Got everything but the package films, ran her princesses category. I just feel like she is more evenly rounded than Brian is. Like I said, he's definitely got that ace in the hole with voice actors, and I'm not saying everything else is bad for he does well in other things, but I just think overall she's stronger in more categories. So I'm going to give that one to Kelly. So that means in the final, we all have Hannah versus Kelly. We've deviated here and there, but when it comes down to it, we're all predicting Hannah versus Kelly in the final. So here it goes. We are going to call the final. Vernon, I'm going to have you go first. Hannah versus Kelly. How do you see it?
So Hannah versus Kelly, we got some big numbers as far as how many wins we've gotten to go into this. And to phrase a movie, it's going to be Johnny Lawrence versus Daniel LaRusso. You've got the person who came in hot, winning every match to get to the seasoned vet of Hannah. And I've just got to believe that if Kelly is on this tear going into this match, there is going to be no stopping the train. But it comes down again to experience that Hannah just has. And let's say you go into a rough round 2 for Kelly, or maybe even a round 3 where you have to pace yourself, or even go into sudden death. How can you slow your mind down? And as much as I have on my piece of paper, and I will show you right here, an arrow beside Kelly taking it all, I have to go with Hannah because of the experience to face Nicki one more time.
Switching at the last minute. Look at that.
It breaks my heart, because if I was playing roulette, I would most certainly go to Nicki, or not Nicki, but Kelly. Because if the percentage is that high, you never get away from the called bet. But I have to go with Hannah. I have to put it on red when it's been black 98% of the time.
All right. So Nicki, that comes down to you.
Well, first of all, I think it's incredible that we were all in agreement with this, because I would love to see this match. Now, to be totally clear, I would be thrilled to see any other combination of final, to be completely clear. But like in any situation, seeing these two who have shown to be powerhouses would be absolutely incredible. Kelly, I could completely see her having the Ace Cabrera run. That would be absolutely astounding to have. But here's the interesting thing. Just Hannah's never lost anyone that wasn't me.
Wow.
True. It's true.
So, and who knows, maybe she's going to be chomping at the bit to show that I'm just a hack and a fluke. So that might give her more of the motivation. But at this point, she's going to have like not just more wins than anyone else, but like overwhelmingly more than anyone else.
More matches.
If she gets to Kelly, she would be 5-2.
5-2. And even in my losses against her, it was never like I destroyed her and it's like knockout TKO. Like it took. And key thing that you just brought up, she has answered a 5. Not in a very hard 5. The last in our match that went to sudden death. And so again, this is very much this is 50.5 to 49.5, because Kelly will be on an insane momentum as a rookie, getting all those consecutive wins. But I gotta go Hannah, gotta go my nemesis.
All right. I mean,
Hannah, you're great, by the way.
But both of you guys are picking Nicki Hannah 3. By the way.
Yeah, I think Nicki's more so on the way. Well, I've already cleaned up with Hannah twice. I'm afraid of the new competitor. That's what I think I'm hearing. I'll say it. That's what I'm seeing.
I just don't want anyone coming for it. Jeez.
All right. So that leaves it down to me. I mean, you guys have both said a lot here. I mean, it's true. If Hannah gets all the way here, she will be 5-2. Kelly will be 4-0. And Nicki has a good point. Hannah has never lost to anyone that was not Nicki so far, but she's going to be playing at this point 3 other very tough competitors just to get here. And Kelly arguably has an even tougher road, because she's going to have to go through either, I mean, we all picked Nazario, but Caleb or Nazario in that match, neither one of them are any slouch.
Right.
And then, that bracket, I have Brian, you have Manda, you have Andy. Any one of those could give her a run for her money. So I feel like her side is just maybe a little bit tougher than what Hannah has. And I don't know. I just have a sneaking suspicion that at the end of the year, at Movie Battles Blowout, yeah, that's what I'm calling it. Movie Battles Blowout, the championship match is going to be Nicki versus Kelly for the Disney Pixar Movie Battles Championship.
Wow. There it is.
So
that is a thing that can
the
happen.
cow has mooed.
that's been a feeling I've had. And like I said, my feelings are right at least 80% of the time. So
Clay, don't speak into existence. I'm scared.
Well, hey, here's the thing. If she, plays you and somehow beats you, then I've got to figure out how to send the belt to Australia. So, I mean, I'm not picking something super pleasant for any of us, but there's something about her. I just feel like she has the potential to at least get there. What she does when she gets there, I don't know. We'll have to see. We're not calling that match right now. But yeah, it's that's what I feel for this tournament. So those are the picks. That's what we see. But I want to encourage anyone that is watching this video, leave your comments, leave your own predictions. What do you think? Did we miss something in our analysis? Do you think that we're absolutely dead wrong and Steven is going to win this tournament? What are you guys talking about?
Bust our bracket.
Yeah, feel free. Let us know what you think in the comments. But I think that is it for now. So I want to thank both Vernon and Nicki for your insight, for your analysis, for Nicki taking, time out of her busy championship schedule to come and talk with us today.
There it is.
That's
this
right.
This is still mine, by the way.
It is. It is. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, like I said, thank you guys. And thanks everyone for watching. I hope you're looking forward to the tournament. I hope that this got you excited for the tournament if you weren't already. And as always, stay here, stay watching, and remember, move.
Mm.